Alright, this is your one and only spoiler warning. If you're playing this game or plan on playing this, do not look at this. You're going to ruin it. You're not going to hurt my feelings by not watching this video. Come back to it another time. But do not watch this. This is a spoiler warning. Alright, you have been warned. This is your Venerator. Amazing looking model. Looks kind of Warhammer-ish, 40k. Absolutely fantastic. Love everything about this miniature. First off, I want to say thank you to the YouTube members. You guys are amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. You guys are awesome. If this is your first time at the channel, or if you're returning, hit that subscribe button. What do you got to lose? We're going to finish doing Oathsworn. We're going to be doing some other stuff, Warhammer, other games. So stay tuned. Without further ado, let's go. The first thing we're going to do is going to be scraping off the mold lines on this. Not too many, but a decent amount. I'm using a file on mine. If you need anything, check the description below for any links of stuff that I use, and you can purchase it on there. It does help the channel, so thank you for that if you do it. First thing we're going to do after priming in black, I spray painted this one just to save some time, so I did that off camera. We're going to use some Dawnstone, we're going to use a dry brush, we're going to use that on our hammer that our Venerator is holding. Now we're going to follow the card art as closely as possible on this. Next, we're going to do a little dry brush of Administratumm Grey just to brighten up just a little bit. If you get this on your other black portions, it's not a big deal. We're going to paint over that here in a little bit. For the metal portions on our hammer, we're going to use some Iron Warriors. This includes the staff portion of it, the ending, and the portion on the top of our hammer. Next, we're going to use some Grey Steel. We're going to use this on all the upper chest plate of our miniature. In a portion of the bottom, I'm going to turn this thing around here in a second so you can pause it and look to see exactly where you need to paint the Grey Steel. Next, we're going to use some Leadbelcher. That's going to be on the chainmail and on the footwear and the knee wear. Again, just follow along. You can see where I'm painting this at. Now, probably for the most tedious part of this miniature, the Retributor Armour. There's a lot of gold areas on this miniature, so this is going to take you a while and a decent amount of paint for you to paint it. We're going to focus on the pauldrons, the back area, the shrine that's on his back. You could have went really in depth with this thing with a bunch of different colors, but again, I'm just trying to paint it just enough to where it looks really good on the table and you're trying to get it on. Nothing too crazy, nothing over the top. Again, you could probably spend an insane amount of time on this and paint it for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. But again, time is of the essence, and time is not our friend on this channel. So we like to paint it, make it look nice, but not overdo it to the point where this is going to take me 30 hours to paint. For our candle area, we're going to use some Wraithbone. Now this is going to take probably 2 to 3 layers. That undercoat of black really wants to stick through. For our back cape, we're going to use some Khrone Red. Now, you can choose whatever you want. You can't really tell what the color is from the card art. This is just what I had in my brain. For the front portion of the cape, the book in the middle of his belt, and the book itself, the pages, we're going to use some Karak Stone. Now this is going to take you probably 2 to 3 coats. Paint it, let it dry completely, repaint it again, let it dry completely, paint it again. Don't go over it while it's still drying. It makes it look like a mess. For the little belt areas under our gauntlets, I guess you could say, and the back wooden areas, we're going to use some Rhinox Hide. For the book itself, we're going to use some Dryad Bark. And for the metal pieces on the book, we're going to use some Runelord Brass. We're not going to do anything else to that, really. We're just going to keep it old and rustic looking. And finally, our candle wicks, we're going to use some white before we hit our washes here in a second. For all of our metal pieces, we're going to be using some Nuln Oil. Do not get this on the gray portion of the hammer. We're keeping the hammer as is, old and stony looking, I guess you could say. But hit everything else with the Nuln Oil. Also with the gold areas, you can hit Nuln Oil as well too. For the candle areas and the brown areas, we're going to hit some Aggaros Earthshade. Do a very light coating when you're doing the coat on the front. We're going to keep that smooth. You can actually skip it if you really want to. It really doesn't make a difference. But you want to hit the book on the front of the belt, and you want to hit the book itself that our Venerator is holding as well. After everything is completely dried and ready to paint, we're going to take some Wraithbone and we're just going to reapply it to the candle area. Not going too crazy on it, just doing the raised areas. For the candle wicks, we're going to use a little bit of white on those just to brighten them up a little bit. And to make our flames, we're going to use some Iyanden Yellow. We're going to use this on the flame wick itself, and then we're going to put a little bit on the tops of each candle as well. To brighten up our gold areas, we're going to take some Liberator Gold, just go over it, do some edge highlighting, just brighten up those top edges just a little bit, make it nice and pretty. For the steel areas, we're going to use some Grey Knight Steel. Just go over the raised areas. Don't go crazy on this. Don't go overboard. Just make it nice. You can also, if you feel comfortable doing it, you can take a dry brush and do that as well, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that, so I'm just doing a little thin coat on our silver areas. For the areas that we hit with the Leadbelcher, we're going to use some Iron Breaker. Do not use this on the chainmail. We're about to use some Necron Compound on a dry brush here in a second. And as I just said, we're going to take a dry brush of Necron Compound on that front area of chainmail. Do not overdo this. Don't get this on the book. Just be very careful. But this really stands out once you hit it with it. To brighten up our book, to not make it look like our pants, we're going to use some Karak Stone real quick. Then we're going to use this on our front pant area, I guess you could say, just to brighten it up. We're not doing a whole lot with that, that's all we're doing. To brighten up our book a little bit, we're going to use a 50-50 mix of Karak Stone Screaming Skull, followed by a full Screaming Skull on the book itself. This is really optional. You don't really need to do this, but I felt like I needed to make the colors differently, and the Screaming Skull looks pretty good as the pages. As an added bonus, if you want to, you can take some Aggaros Earthshade or some black and scribble on some notes on there if you wanted to kind of spruce it up just a little bit. Coming down to the wire here, we're going to reapply some Khrone Red. Now when you're applying this, you can use a Lamia medium if you want, or make sure it's very thin with water. Don't overdo this part. You want to build up those highlights. You don't want to put them all on at once. So make sure you're thinning it with either a lot of Lamia medium or water. Only hitting the raised areas, we're going to do a 50-50 mix of Khrone Red, Evil Sunz, Scarlet, and that's going to start building up our highlights. I'm doing about 3 to 4 after it's completely dry, adding another layer, so on and so forth. The biggest problem with this is the time-consuming portion of letting the layer dry, especially with the water content in there. It takes a little while. Next, I'm going to use a pure Evil Sunz Scarlet, again very thin, and building up our highlights on those raised areas coming down the cape. Next, a 50-50 mix of Evil Sunz Scarlet, Wild Rider Red. We're going to focus this more on the bottom portion of our cape, not trying to overdo this. And finally, towards the bottom of our cape, Wild Rider Red in a pure form. Again, very thin down. Focusing on our base, we're going to use a dry brush of Dawnstone, followed by a Praxeti White, just to give it some coloration, if that's even a word, colorization. There we go. And just get ready for our contrast paints we're about to put on. Next, we're going to use some Basilicanum Grey, and we're going to put that onto our rocky areas. Followed by some Aggaros Dunes on the bottom portion of the base. And finally, the best part of painting this miniature, because I mean you're done, we're going to do the rim of the base in Abaddon Black. And that's it. That's all we're doing to this specific miniature. Nothing too crazy. I thought it came out pretty well for the amount of time spent on it. It's going to look fantastic on the Oathsworn game board, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you can use this for something else. You know what I mean? Thank you for watching. Thank you all my YouTube members. Thank you to all of the people who subscribe and actually watch these videos and leave a comment. Make sure you leave a comment if you want to see something specific done in the future. But until next time, paint on.